you have noted a trend where we are seeing a migration of some of the companies that are listed on Altix onto the main board. Now that threatens me because it threatens this slot, because this slot is about the up-and-coming entrepreneur and growing those companies to become the Anglos of tomorrow. What's going on?
I think what we've seen in the last 2 years particularly is that the Altix market was a great venue for new companies to list, to get ahead in the world and to develop their business. But with the downfall of a small cap market, particularly in the last 12 to 18 months, institutions have got very risk averse. And because of the poor returns in the Altix market, many great companies that are listed there have been tarred with the same brush and have all fallen very sharply. In many cases, the underlying prospects for these businesses are doing quite well. But the Altix market, sadly, currently, in a poll I've recently done with institutions, is seen as a pariah market purely because of risk perception and poor liquidity.
And I suppose it doesn't help that also in the past year we've had very poor returns from the Altix market, and partly because, of course, the issue you're referring to, risk aversion. Investors simply don't want to be associated with the market where perhaps liquidity becomes a problem. Research is not poor, but there's a scarcity of it.
Yes, I think, in the Altix space, there's very few of us actually covering the small to mid-cap stocks. And what you've seen, the trend in the last few months, is that the better-run Altix companies are moving to the main board purely because of risk perception. For example, Iso Frankie moved over last year. InfraSource moved yesterday. It just sort of raised their profile because in many cases, certain institutions, they've changed their mandate so they can't now invest in Altix stocks purely because of risk and liquidity. And I think going forward, you're going to see a number of other companies in that space moving over the next few months.
I was going to ask for a few names if you have any you'd like to share with us.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of the better run smaller companies like Buildworks, BSI Steel, amongst others, would move over in the next few months.
Absolutely. Let's talk about in a market that's related to that, the IPO market for the small caps. Now, is that side also dormant? And are we likely to see perhaps a dearth of new listings on Altix because of the issue we've just spoken about, risk aversion?
I think the answer is yes. last year we had 5 listings in the JSE, of which hardly any were on the Altix board.
On the Altix side.
I think this year there's going to be some more interest in IPOs. Again, I've just finished a roadshow, and I think institutions are a bit wary of putting money into IPOs. They want sizable IPOs coming to the market. And I think going forward, I'm aware of a pipeline of what's going on. And I think you could see probably between 4 and 6 fairly chunky companies listing this year.
So possibly for the year.
Yes, possibly in the second half. Yeah. And I think it'll all come to the main board purely because, again, of risk perception and the access to capital.
Now, let's move on to something else that I wanted to talk about. Now, I wouldn't trade Johannesburg for London, for instance, the snow and everything else that goes in there. I mean, there are some nice things there, but there are very good many things that are nice here. But there's been a lot of rain in Johannesburg and its surrounds. You have done a bit of a look around. What have you found?
Yeah, I've just spent the last 2 weeks visiting about 20 CEOs around Gauteng. And
there's a lot of walking and talking.
Yes, and they've told me basically this is a dry season. It's a La Nina season, which should be a dry month or dry season. We have now seen 3 times the average rainfall in Gauteng since October last year, between 800 millimetres and 1,200 millimetres of rain, which is excessive. The farmers are very happy, yields are up.
Sure.
But the underlying companies involved, let's say in the outdoors business, in construction, in materials handling, in waste collection, etc., are finding it very tough. I saw a company last week, and they indicated to me that just the rains in December has cost them 10% of earnings going forward. I visited a company yesterday in waste collection, and they indicated to me again, because of the heavy rains, they're finding it difficult to actually take their waste to a landfill. So it's incremental things that you wouldn't think of. Mud on the street, for example, trucks being delayed because of potholes, robots being out. And it is having an impact, particularly on infrastructure and building materials companies. And it wouldn't surprise me if going forward, you'll see a few companies saying, you know what, earnings would have been better, but the rains have hampered our progress in late 2009.
But I suppose the flip side of it is that we're also seeing companies that are benefiting from it, like, for instance, the tire repairers and the guys who do general maintenance of cars.
Yes, I think, driving around Joburg this week, being as I stay in Cape Town, I think the amount of potholes in Joburg should do many of these companies a great deal of business.